Hey guys, what's going on? This is Darth Arma bringing you episode 2 of Push, Block, Paper, Scissors. Today's topic is going to be frame data, or more on frame data, or what are frames? You hear this talk all the time. Someone says plus 2, plus 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 6, and sometimes people don't know what they're talking about. All they're talking about is the frame data and what a frame is. This episode is going to be covering what a frame is and how we can use it and apply it for any fighting game. Hey guys, episode 2. What is a frame? I've mentioned it before in episode 1. Frames are just measurements of time. Time that we can't really see because it's just it's 1/60th of a second. One frame is 1/60th of a second. But you can do something to kind of visually see what a frame difference is, or what frame advantage, negative frame advantage, or absolutely no advantage or disadvantage where frame data leaves you at exactly 0. I'm going to recreate those situations in Training Room and Injustice 2. This can be reapplied to any other fighting game that has a decent training room, or if you're playing a really old fighting game that has no training room at all, you're going to need a buddy to basically do two things. One, to block whatever you're trying to figure out the data for, and then 2, to immediately jump. Now, a little intro into what we're looking at. I basically have the computer set to block everything and jump. So as soon as the computer's done blocking, or I'm sorry, the AI, the dummy AI in the training room, as soon as it's done blocking something, it's going to jump. And I'm going to jump along with them so you can kind of see the difference. The jumping symbolizes when your character can move. So instead of jumping, obviously you would swing back with whatever move you want to do instead of just jumping up for no reason. The jumping is just so we can visually see when we can move and when our opponent can move during what situations. So just a little transition right back into here. Again, this is Training Room in Injustice. We're going to be looking at a few things. The first thing we're going to be looking at is a string that leaves Batman. Actually, okay, we'll do it in order. A string that leaves Batman very negative. It's even punishable because it's negative 14. Then we're going to go to a string that leaves him at 0. Again, you can see right there under startup, block advantage. Now, when you're looking through the strings here, the frame data that you see is the frame data available for the very last hit. So back 1 obviously doesn't start up in 20 frames. The third hit of back 1, 1, 2, or back square, square, triangle if you're playing on default on PlayStation. The triangle is what starts up in 20 frames. That's not very important. What's really important is the hit advantage and the block advantage. But right now we're looking at block advantage. And then a string that leaves him very, very plus, 1, 1, or I'm sorry, square, square, X. We're going to be tagging that so we can do all those in order. So the first one, like I said, very, very punishable on block. It's going to be this one. I'm holding up immediately as soon as I'm done. I'll do it one more time. As soon as I'm done, do you see how much sooner my AI Batman, now I'm this one, Batman right here, the one that's crouching, this is the Batman I'm controlling. Do you see how much faster or how much sooner that he can move before me? Now let's look at something that's 0. Now it's going to look more like we're going to move at the same time. Almost at the exact same time, or pretty much the exact same time, because the frame data tells us that that move is 0 on block. So as soon as the opponent's done blocking it, we're both at 0. All right, and here's one. This one might be a little bit tricky because he's jumping in between the gap, but I'll time it right. Do you see how much sooner I can move after my opponent? Do it one more time. I can move 6 frames before he can. So that difference in timing of when you can jump, that is the frame advantage. So that last move is I was at plus 6. I can move 6 frames before he can. Very useful in a lot of different situations. However, that string does have a gap, so just to kind of balance it out, not just that's mainly the reason you don't see a lot of high-level Batman players using that string too often, is because you can meter burn back 3 or interrupt it if your character is fast enough. Okay, now that we have the visual cue understanding a little bit more, and we can understand why we see, or why your opponent can move before you can, or why you can move before your opponent in certain situations, I'm going to go over a real life situation, one that I see a lot of players, especially the new players, disrespect and they might not understand why this is happening or why it works. So this is just a real life example of how you can use frame data to your advantage. Now we're going to be looking at Batman's overhead. The universal overhead that every character in the game has is their forward X. His forward X is called the tumbler. The tumbler has a very slow startup of 28 frames, but it hits overhead. You can meet a burn for a hit of armor, and look at that beautiful number under block advantage, +7 on block. So we're going to be going over something that's called a frame trap. Now, what a frame trap is a situation that your opponent puts you in where they want you to press a button. They want you to move. They want you to do anything but just block. So we're going to be leaving our opponent at if you're looking at yourself, you're putting yourself at +7. Our opponent's putting us at -7. So if your opponent puts themselves at +7, that means you're at -7. That's how you got to look at it. It's all in the perspective of the attacker. So the attacker is putting us at -7 because he's putting himself at +7. And then right immediately after, the frame perfect back triangle, which starts up right there. You can see startup frame, very, very important. And you want to, and the frame data is all about that first move. You don't want to look at this. We're going to be doing the stay down, the overhead string, which is back triangle X, but it doesn't start up in 10 frames. That's talking about the X that I have highlighted there, the second hit. What you want to look at is here, the batarang swipe. It starts up in 12 frames. So if our opponent puts us at a -7, or if we put our opponent, let's pretend we're the AI doing the attack. We put our opponent at -7. We put ourselves at +7. So that means we get a 7 frame head start. And then we go for the batarang swipe, the back triangle move. Our opponent is only going to have a 5 frame gap to do anything. And in this game, the fastest normal move is 6 frames. And most characters either have a 6 frame as their fastest move or 7 frame as their fastest move. Either way, they're not going to have enough time for their move to become active because our move's already going to hit them. So I already have the opponent set up to do so. So he's going straight. He's making me block this. And this is what happens when I try to press any button. This is what happens when I try to jump. This is what happens when I try to press down 2. Now, this isn't just a foolproof thing. You can do something about it if you have certain options. And this option that we're going to be using is Batman's parry. It starts up in 4 frames, but if he knows it's coming, he can really, really punish you hard for it. You can parry. That's about it. You can't press a button. Can't press a button. I'm trying to jump away. Can't jump away. It's just one of those things where you have to know it's coming and hopefully not get caught pressing a button, not get blown up for doing so. All right, well, I hope you guys learned a lot about frame data, frame disadvantage, frame advantage, and how to apply frame traps. But keep in mind, just because you know how to apply a frame trap doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do it super easily. It still takes a lot of practice, a lot of hard work, and a lot of dedication to make sure that those frame traps are frame perfect. And what I mean by frame perfect is that your trap move, which is the second move, in our case it was the batarang swipe, the back triangle, comes out at the very first available frame where your character can move. Remember, we looked back on when your character can jump. Same thing applies. As soon as your character can move, that's when you can swing with that back triangle and trap your opponent, and hopefully they're pressing a button or they're trying to move, they're trying to do anything but just sit there and block. And you can blow them up for a full combo. Again, guys, I am Darth Arma. Thank you so much for watching this video. You guys can follow me at Twitter, on YouTube, or on Twitch, all at Darth Arma. Thank you so much for watching.